feel like it's also just Tino for me. Like, as long as he's not overextending. Like, I think he has a big weakness right now and like overextending. We saw it was Pango in the last series, and like he was just so out of position, like so many times, right?
Yeah.
But when he was playing his QoP, he didn't make those mistakes in that particular game. So there's some inconsistency there, and Bob for me is just always going to be a bit on point. And if Tino doesn't overextend, doesn't bait his team, which he did in the series with Pango, he just followed up on them, then I think that's when Execration looked the best. And we get our gyrocopter just a bit
it
later.
comes out now. Why here instead of?
It wasn't banned.
I guess okay, so it's one of those things that they want to pick it up now in the hopes that Execration won't take it away from them. Deny pick it?
Yeah.
Or,
Well, I don't think they really. Yeah, they wanted to make sure they get it, so they could have denied pick it for sure on Execration.
Okay.
And they're just gonna pick up the Sand King. Stable, very stable, just a good stun. Works well with Caudle. Caudle has a lot of targets where he can give some like double stun potential too now.
Got on them for banning anti-mage with Caudle Storm and a Sand King. That would have been really bad.
Yeah, especially if they picked like a Dusa here or something.
That hero got banned first phase. Get it out. Polaris are just gonna suffer from Medusa first phase ban for the rest of the DPC, I think.
100%.
It looks like their draft is like just well rounded right now.
Yeah.
Stuns, buffs, team fight, pick off, like they kind of just look fine.
Is there anything that they're missing? One element that needs to be in that last pick?
Power push, maybe? Like
Why
objective taking?
would you pick Necro here?
Because it's banging. Have you seen Cuckoo's
Yeah,
Necrophos? He's been
I
making
know.
it work.
He first phased it for no reason, right? Then I did an interview with him, right? And I was like, "Do you think it was a good Necro game?" He was like, "No, not really. It just seemed pretty hard, but we're just showing the power of Necrophos this game." I'm like, "All right," and that they did. Now Polaris is picking Necro into like Storm, Sand King, Caudle, Ogre. There's so much magic damage here, and I don't particularly see a lane. Like maybe against Storm, it can thrive, but I don't really see Storm get like owned in lane ever. Like he just pushes the lane out so quickly, he gets runes, go jungle. Like you can't really shut him down that hard. So I don't see the purpose of this Necrophos here.
What I liked about Polaris the first time they showed up against Enigma Galaxy, was like their lineup was so like weirdly slow and like not playmakey, and they just farmed their carry so hard, and then just kind of went together and just did good moves and won. So I kind of see like whispers of that in this draft where I'm like sitting here going like, what the hell are they going to do? But I could imagine at maybe like 20-25 minutes they kind of just go with an IO and Necro. They have so much heal, and they just like this gyro with a crit stick, Ags BKB or something just kind of ends the game potentially, and he's unkillable. I could see a world where that happens.
Yeah, I feel like there's just tankier heroes than Necrophos.
Potentially. I mean,
like
yeah.
Necrophos is conditional to what he's playing against, his tankiness, right? So if he's playing against a lot of physical, gets the Ghost Shroud off, or there's not a lot of burst, there's a lot of chain stun here, and maybe the IO can keep him alive. Maybe I'm underestimating the strength of IO Necro. I was thinking as well they might do IO Necro in like the offlane, but that seems unlikely. They put Mars mid for Storm, so
The Luce plays all these weird heroes mid. He's played LC mid as well as
it has to be Necro mid, right? I just don't see unless
could be Mars mid. Why not?
for Storm. That's
Is it
just
horrible.
I mean, Necro will do way better mid. That's
Okay.
why, and I think the IO Mars is just solid, just as solid as Necro IO, if not even better, to be honest.
Polaris have lost overall picks, so maybe they're just like, maybe they'll decide where they want to lane the Mars and Necro depending on like the carry. Maybe it makes it awkward for the carry pick. I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean they still could pick carry. I think they're flexing gyro between 4 and 1 right now, so that they do have options. But you know, IO gyro's always solid too if they just want to pick a pos 4 last.
What would you prefer that they end up picking on
Or a
that
5, I guess.
Polaris?
Love that.
It depends on what they see. So they see the Drow here for Storm, Sand King. I don't have a lot of time for this one. Well, they do, I guess, but I don't. So like think about like everything they could do, because there's a lot of variables that they have to like already be talking about, because they've got flex picks for sure here now. I think they just do Mars or Drow. That seems like the best with IO. Then they decide here, do they want Gyro 5 and pick, you know, a Drow counter? What's even a good Drow counter nowadays? Like Spectre's like one of the worst heroes in the game right now, but could be good this game. Fine for Sand King.
Not true, Fear.
First
You
trial.
won with Spectre in your pub.
I did,
Don't
but
put her down.
that doesn't mean anything.
Practically comparable.
It's the same
I'm
thing.
special, and not everyone can be like me, you know. All right, so they're bringing a Shadow Shaman.
Yeah, that Shaman is going to be the last pick, and that means that we get to be joined by two other amazing people, and that's going to be Mike and John. Mike, I want to grab your thoughts about the draw here we finally see on Execration.
Don't hate.
Well, you know what I think about Drow Ranger, Nat. You know this hero is completely trash, but this draft
She
around, right?
won.
Like, well, she won, but I don't know if I'd put it down to the Drow pick. I mean, look, at the end of the day, Execration's draft, right? It looks a lot better. I don't know what the point of this Necrophos is either. I was listening to you guys in the panel. I don't know what Necro's here for. I think Execration might actually have game one.
Yeah, I mean, their draft is looking solid. I'd say Polaris, I like the shift for Xavius. We were talking about him being a greedier pause 4. Shaman can play really nice with a blink and Aether Lens and gives him the hold for the storm, but the lanes look a bit tough, and I think if Execration played their game, it could go their way if they played right.
All right, both these teams, I guess, suffering from some losses. So here on the couch, which team do you like for game number 1?
I personally am going to go for Execration's draft.
Mhm.
I think this Drow, there's a lot of like pressure on the Shadow Shaman to get a blink and get on top of this Drow this game. Same with the Mars.
Rough-wise, I agree. I like Execrations more. I think it's just well-rounded in general. They literally cover everything. They got it all.
Well, I'm excited to see, Mike, if you're going to change your viewpoint about this Drow Ranger at the end of it as we do head into game number 1.
Highly doubt it, Nat, but thank you for handing it over. It is MLP and johnxfire. John, you're looking rather short tonight, but how are you feeling?
Feeling good, Mike. You know, we've got pretty good series lined up here. It's one of the classic, rare cases of Rambulan. You know, it's two Filipino teams. You don't get that too often anymore, and it's a fun one because you've got people from the Visayas region in Polaris and people from the Luzon region in Execration. So, you know, it's the classic, as I am, if I can so say in my own language, Visayawa versus Tagalog. So, if you know,
Wow.
you know. And this is going to be a pretty fun match between these two. Always kind of noisy, but kind of quiet right now. Considering the circumstances for both teams, it's pretty dire straits. So, you know,
Yeah.
serious mode on for both sides here, Mike.
Yeah, very rare game as well, John, where I actually agree with the Drow pick. I think the Drow, very, very nice here for Execration, all jokes aside. And do you find a point for this Necrophos? Like, the panel was struggling to find a point. You were struggling, I think, to find a point when we were talking in the background. Well, what's the point of this hero on the mid lane here for Polaris?
I think they just kind of picked it early to try and flex, maybe bait in a tiny pick. But, you know, it's a tough game when you're tiny against Necrophos. Mid lane matchup against Storm. It can work, as Fear pointed out. You know, it's a lane that Necrophos can shine in, but it's not like you keep a Storm completely oppressed. Like, the Storms should still be able to farm. This is a Bob Storm. Not a hero we've seen him play as often in comparison to, say, his bat, but something he still excels in and can snowball on. So I'm keen to see how much Lelouch can do to stop that. Necrophos is still a lane-dominant hero. It just feels like you're going to be tied into Reaper's Sight. Cooldown's just consistently long, so that kind of slows down your tempo, especially as a mid-hero, you know? You're going to be playing around a 2-minute cooldown every single time, whereas the Storm can just run around.
Look at this, Palos. Gonna be shackled up here. Xavius and Force trying to get some very early damage in onto Palos. It shouldn't really amount to a kill, but they could actually die for this. In fact, Palos, he's trapped in the tree line, but does have the Tango to quell his way through. So a lot of damage being dealt very early on by Polaris Esports down at the bot lane, and it should give him a decent start to this this bottom lane here.
Yeah, that's exactly what you want to see. Apply that pressure early on the Drow. Doesn't feel the greatest in some of those early levels. Ogre Magi can't really do too much to stop you there as well. And you do have that really high right-click damage coming out from Xavius. You know, it's a Shadow Shaman, starting off with a 76 average damage. Right-clicks are always going to hurt. They've got a lot of stuns here as well for Polaris. Once they have the Spear, you can expect that Shackled Spear combination to come in, and that is perhaps the moment they really start to apply that harder pressure onto Palos.
Yeah. Should have looked to mid lane as well. Storm against Necrophos. Now, I think we all agree the Necro should have a pretty decent advantage in this mid lane, and Lelouch is very, very good in this mid lane, of course, really showing off in this 2-2. How do you feel about it? I mean, is there a way Bob can try to make this matchup work for himself?
Just focus on clearing out the creep wave as best as he can. and maybe just have access to a small camp. It wasn't blocked off, so he's just going to have to rely on that build-up. But you can see just how badly it can go for a Storm. Your attack range is shorter. Necrophos has a 20 attack range lead that kind of orb walk you if you can, and Death Pulse is also equally as far. So every single time Storm comes in for a last hit, he's going to get hit twice. Right-click and Death Pulse, and you don't sustain. Necrophos, he has sustain just from his passive and from the Death Pulse itself, so from that resource use of your mana and HP, you always lose out, and you just kind of have to focus on what you can get and just try to farm up. Play small camp, stack up, secure power runes when they're up, very important for Storm, and beyond that, it's Necrophos. You can't do much about this.
No, you certainly can't, John. You certainly can't. Still, top lane as well. I mean, the final lane we haven't really talked about yet. It's going to be Natsumi and Mavis against Tino and Shanks. This is the lane I think is my favorite here for Execration, if they do make the jump in. It's very hard to try and contest this kind of lane. So you have constant burrow strikes coming in, especially once you get a few more levels up in that Chakra Magic. It seems like Polaris should have a bit of a difficult time in this top lane.
There's a lot of aggression that can come out from Execration. We're seeing that from Tino, and you know, it's as the panel pointed out, as Fear pointed out. It feels like Tino has got to step up to the plate. We've seen him do that before he went on to Boom, and this is the kind of start he needs to accomplish. Now, there is a bit of a spike that can come out for Polaris down the line. Level 3, level 4 for the Gyrocopter with Overcharge is pretty overwhelming, especially if they invest more points in maybe the Rocket Barrage value point with the Overcharge. But you have to stop Natsumi from building up. An Io and Gyro means that the Gyrocopter's online a lot faster than you'd expect. He can right-click really fast, just with the Overcharge buff. And we've seen Gyrocopters before opt for Crystallis Rush if they want to, and just show up in fights with a Relocate. So you've got to ensure yourself here on Tino that doesn't come out from Polaris this game.
Yeah. Speaking of rushing, John, I'm a bit sad to see it's not going to be a Coddle Core, by the way. I'm sure you would have noticed, John, in our pub games. Plenty of Coddles coming out recently as mid lane Lelouch gonna get jumped. He's in trouble now, but does stick charge up. Bob will still go for a bit of a chase, but can't really finish the job off. Lelouch really playing with fire, though, and the Death Pulse gonna follow him down. It just won't be enough. Oh, the Fairy Fire coming in clutch there for Bob. And I believe that is actually his second salve he's bought here in the Storm, so very detrimental here for the Storm Spirit, Jonathan. 2 salves being expended now.
2 salves, he's behind an EXP. Lelouch is going to hit that 6-timer quick, and if he does have that Reaper Sight before the ball lightning's out, it's going to lead to a really fast kill for Lelouch. He won't even need supports down mid, so Bob's got to watch for that early spike that Lelouch is setting up for. And we're seeing the mid lane really be tied into a 1v1. We're not seeing the movement come out from either side lane. I think that's exactly what you want. Tie in the side lanes, make it hard for Bob, ensuring that no support can help him out. Again, he's still playing with the small camps, but that lead Lelouch has is really starting to ramp up. Double null up. You basically never run out of mana in this lane with the double null, and you can just keep shoving in creep wave and keep building up.
Bottom lane, Vincenzo has been caught, but Xavier still copying quite a bit of damage here on the Shaman. Could be in danger as the Fairy Fire does come out. Who gets the first blood? It's going to be Xavier's, as he does finally drop to Palos here in the Drow, but they do at least get that first blood bonus. You'll be very happy if you're a Polaris fan about that.
Nice, simple kill. Not the biggest here to pin down, but you're building up that start here for Force and Xavius. You want that quick blink on the Mars. You want to build up on the Shadow Shaman as well. As Fear pointed out, you want that blink, you want 8 relents. Xavius is a very greedy pause 4. They should enable him to get that done. And he does rotate mid. Still a ways off until the 6-minute rune, but he does have Shackles to kill off Bob if they want.
He does. Bob, Reaper Scythe out, gonna hold him down for the Shackles, and it's gonna be enough. Lelouch able to secure the kill there on the Necrophos. It's already been a hard enough laning stage here for Bob, let alone with that death now. So I suppose with the Keeper, you do have plenty of ways of defending this mid lane, but well, you've got to find a decent way to try and catch up on Bob now.
You've got to find a way for that Storm to get some initial build-up. Xavius, though, switches top.
Yeah, Tino, top lane, going to end up dropping. Nice little rotation there from Xavius, and I don't even think he was required there, John, as Mavis and Natsumi just chase him down all the way for that kill. Nice little trade coming out. 1-3 so far, but more importantly, a 2k net worth lead already standing for this Dire team.
And I love seeing this build up from Natsumi. He does opt for 2 points in the Rocket Barrage, knowing he's got an IO lane, knowing that Spell Amp is there. He's got lots of sustain for his mana spam, so they just get aggressive and run in. Instead of focusing on the flak farm, they want to play aggressive.
Mid lane again. Shackles is out onto Bob. And this time around, Bob's got plenty of help to try and help him out, though. Io does tether over Bob. He's still going to drop. They tried to save Xavius. It's still well worth the trade here for Polaris Esports, as they are going to get the mid-storm once again. And times only get rougher here for Bob.
Yeah, it's not feeling great. They're not able to secure that storm lane. Only has the null, no boots up, nothing else. It's going to be hard for him to really snowball for the team on the side of Execration, and it feels like that job should shift over to Tino now, but he's also a ways off from his own blink. So there's no real way of running around here. You could try to risk it. You can still top up your storm with a chakra and keep running down, although Lelouch...
They're going to try and chase him down now. Lelouch dropping quite low here to the storm, as he does not have the Ghost Round available, and eventually should go down to the Illuminate, and he does. It took a hell of a lot of damage, but they get it done. As in the meantime, top lane Tino going to be chased a little bit on the Sand King, but should eventually be able to make his way out. Though Mavis continues chasing, and Tino, he's going to run back in with the Pyro Strike and the Sandstorm. Natsumi's going to drop. Oh, it's a great play out from the Sand King. Able to find him just as he loses his own life. I'd say that's well worth it.
They still lose Palace bot lane though, so that evens out that trade. It takes a lot of supports down mid to kill off Lelouch. And I think you're at this point where losing your Drow is a lot worse than losing your Gyrocopter in the opposite team. The Drow Ranger can keep up pace with the Gyrocopter, but the Gyro does have the slight farming advantage and the earlier timings that you have to worry about. The Drow needs more time to build up, and that's more time now they have to stall for Palace to build up, to stall for the Storm to build up. And that still gives Polaris a very clear timing onto the mid game. You know, once you hit the 10 to 15 minute mark, they're just going to be set. That should align with the blink timing here for Forest. That should align with the relocate plays that Mavis will enable. And that still leads to a lot more for Polaris.
Bob. Gee, he's scaring me right here, John. Just farming this huge stack of cap. Does get a lot of gold out of it, but even after all of that gold being given the way of the Storm, he's still only 2.8k net worth. Still 900 gold behind the Necrophos, John. That's a concerning sign.
Yeah, bottom net worth core. Storm is, one of the more sensitive heroes to item timings. Again, we're still not close to any big item. Power Treads is going to be coming out. That could help a little bit more in juggling around some stats and dive. They're trying to contest Natsumi's farm, but that just gives Natsumi really easy kills with a Rocket Barrage.
Yeah, I mean, Vincenzo in the wrong neighborhood, as Bob is going to try and zip his way forward onto the Gyrocopter, but unless you kill off Mavis, it's not happening. Vortex is there. They'll cancel off the relocate. They might find Mavis. Natsumi should be able to get out, as now Lelouch does show himself at this top lane. Epicenter though, Tino going to try and turn for an even bigger kill, but Lelouch, he's got the hood up. It's going to be way too much magic defenses. Now the Reaper side out onto the Sand King, but Bob at least finding the Necrophos can move more. Onto Natsumi he goes, but he is out of mana. Still a great trade here for Execration now, as they are able to fight back. That Necrophos kill going to be very big news here for Bob.
And that definitely helps cause good timing from Bob to just come back in, take that kill for himself, start your recovery process here for the Storm. On the side of Polaris, maybe overextending just a bit, feeling rather confident of the damage output of their Gyro, which is fine. But you have to remember that Necrophos doesn't have the highest HP pool at this point. Doesn't have the highest strength gain, so even with the Hood of Defiance, he can still melt to the output of the Sand King with the Epicenter and the Sandstorm running on top. They are starting to get some space out in Execration. They are still slightly behind. It's only 1k net worth lead for Polaris, not the biggest, but they've got these massive Ancient stacks for Tino to clear. That's going to lead to his Blink Dagger, only 200 gold away. And once you do have that blink on Sand King, it becomes a lot easier to keep setting up those kinds of plays. He can be the front line, he can buy the space out, set up for Bob to clean up much smoothly, and start really giving more map space out to Palos, who's still kind of trying to keep up as well in comparison. So, good news for Execration. And that is going to allow them to really be the aggressors, and they do go for the smoke play now with the blink on Tino.
Lelouch again going to be targeted as the Burrow Strike is there into the Solar Bind, and even with the Ghost Round, it's going to be a lot of damage to fly out though. Lelouch, he's not dead yet. Arena down, but they do manage to snipe him, as now Bob's gone too far. They've even caught the Ogre. Tino, he'll move in for another. A double out for the Sand King, but Natsumi's still proving to be a big problem. They do relocate him out. So a 2-for-2 trade in the mid lane. Considering they get the Necrophos and the Shaman again, I'd still say it seems more worth it for Execration.
You are keeping the Necrophos down. You did lose your Storm there, so I think it evens out a lot more than you'd want it to. For X, if they lost any other hero, you'd feel great. Bob still gets to go. They will still go for a smoke play though. Epicenter's still up, Blink's still up. They get a good scan in Execration here.
They're gonna find Mavis first, and it shouldn't be too hard though. Never mind Tino, he's gonna go right after the bigger target. Onto Natsumi, they've got plenty of damage. Bob, he'll move in for the IO. Nice TP away, but it's not gonna be enough. Bob does catch him. And suddenly a 10-10, very slight net worth lead here for Polaris Esports. This game has gotten a hell of a lot closer.
Yeah, you'd love to see that aggression out from Execration. Just constantly smoking, constantly wanting to use that Blink and Epicenter. And they know this is around the timing where they've got to play aggressive with the Sand King. And they've got a lot of magical bursts. That Solar Bind makes it so easy to hold people down, melt them down with all the magic damage out you have until BKBs come out for Polaris. That's going to be a constant strategy. Just run and gun with a high burst. You have BKB still a long ways off, especially for a Drow Copper. He does have the Chrysalis up, so it's going to be a BKB rush next. And that should be the point where Polaris starts to feel a little bit comfy again. But again, that's some time they have to stall for the farm. Execration finds a tier 1 top. They opened up the map. And this entire time, Palos hasn't been showing up. He's just been farming. Dragonlance up into the Yasha next. Still trailing behind a bit. But that lead between the Drow Copper and the Drow isn't that big, Mike. It's around 200 gold. So you're kind of ticking all the boxes here for Execration to ride into the 25-minute mark with a really farmed up Drow. You know, with a Storm that's fully recovered and just start running around by then.
Yeah, I appreciate the way Execration's played this. Like, especially just prioritizing Tino to pick up that Blink earlier on by taking those ancient stacks. So, you know, you might think, oh, maybe we should save it for the Drow, but obviously the Blink on the Sand King has paid off thus far. And as you said, John, the net worth lead for Polaris, at least with their cores, isn't so much of a difference as top lane. Who have they got? Speaking of the devil, they caught Palos. He's way too far forward. Getting caught out there by Polaris, he will end up dropping. You can't be that far just farming like that. It's way too dangerous, especially when you're against an IO.
Yeah, you really have to respect that relocate play. It's not just one hero that's going to jump you, it's going to be 3 at minimum. And it makes it a lot easier to find these openings. Tino?
Yeah, nice spear up onto Tino. He should just drop here. With the Hex out, he has no option. They do at least get the tier 1 mid tower down though, so that's one positive. And that's about all they're going to get though, as they do drop 2. Polaris, it seems like they're well and truly online now to just keep moving around and keep making plays. Bot lane. Yeah, Natsumi. He got spotted there by Bob, but Bob ran out of mana and just couldn't keep the chase up.
Still trying to run up, but they don't have a Reaper sight anymore, and Lelouch, so pinning someone down would be a tough cause. I do love the vision game coming out from both sides. There are some really nice defensive wards from Execration to watch moving, and they still have one aggressive ward in top jungle. Polaris, they've been constantly dying in that top jungle, so they're avoiding it now. They're just playing the triangle, getting some safe farm out for Natsumi. There are some aggressive wards as well from Polaris, at least in that bot jungle. It's not giving them as much as they'd want to. They haven't been able to really play in that bot jungle, so Execration's still feeling really safe despite that vision game, and it's forcing so many resources out from the sports. Like, look at how many sentries they have to drop in this jungle. They have to keep trying to make it safe for Natsumi to keep playing this farm game.
Top side. Natsumi, Mavis, they'll just keep farming away. It seems like Execration are going to try and make a jump in at some point, but there is going to be a smoke out. Vincenzo not making his move in, but they get a perfect scan on the smoke of Polaris. Could be a great setup here for Execration if they want to try and counter-initiate. The pings are coming up for the Roshan instead. They have the wards up, so they're going to drop them straight off the bat. Execration, I'm not sure if they've read this movement. They know there's a smoke going on, but they may assume it's to chase them down instead. And they're actually hugging the mid tower. They don't realize Roshan's currently happening.
Yeah, they don't even need the Drower here. You know, the wards still do that damage onto Roshan. They are in the area, so maybe if Vincenzo just pops in, he might be able to see, but Rosh is already fairly low here.
Oh, it's too late. Roshan's gone. Natsumi, he'll take the Aegis for himself from the Gyrocopter, and now Bob gonna try and zip through his force. Does not land the spear he wanted, so Bob, he'll move back in on the Storm, trying to get something. They'll get one down onto Lelouch. He's already popped the Ghost Shroud, but the relocate is there. Xavius, or rather Mavis, saving the day as now they continue on to the Shaman instead. There goes Xavius. And they should have another. Mavis will slowly make his way back into the battle and does die. They will still get 3 down for Execration, so you lose Roshan, but you still get a pretty darn good team fight to go your way.
They find a great angle. Really unfortunate Arena coming out from Force not finding targets he wants.
Yeah, in big trouble. Bob, he's got an Arcane Rune up, so the mana's no problem as the Reaper Scythe comes through, but it's going to make no difference. Instead, Spear is there. Force might find a nice trade for his team, and does. But they are certainly proving that this Necrophos is not too big of an issue, as now Tino. He's going to be fine. They did not have the Spear available. But I'll tell you what, John, Lelouch, he's not looking too tanky at the moment.
He's really not. He just doesn't have enough EHP. Like, yeah, Ghost Shroud is nice. It just amps up the epicenter damage and the sandstorm damage when you're in the middle of it. Your Hood of Defiance just kind of melts away. He doesn't have much HP on himself, despite the +8 strength talent, only 1.4k. He's got the plate mail going to the Lotus Orb for some defense, but you're gonna need a little bit more. And it's not like he has the most Reaper Sight kills to have that region on hand as well. So it's still a very susceptible target at this point in the game. I think you are really looking for Force to act as your frontliner at this point. He is also working onto the BKB on the Mars, and that's still a ways off. Again, the key thing for Polaris now is just those BKB timings, Mike. They've already got one riding on Natsumi. He can make good use of it with his Aegis, but you definitely want one on Force, and I'd say to an extent you'd want Xavius to have like a Blink BKB as well. Shadow Shaman, it's going to be your key piece of control against something like the Storm. You want those shackles to go on as long as possible. You want that Shadow Shaman to live in these engagements. So again, some of that read has to come true here for Xavius to start getting some items up for himself.
Execration. Just chill in that diet jungle, just keep that farm going. Still a very even game between these two teams. It's a very slight net worth lead here for Execration at the moment. You gotta give props to Palos, John. He's caught up very nicely on this drow. Just a couple K behind the Gyrocopter now as they are hunting top lane. Force, no, he'll make the jump in. He's the hunter here. The Shanks has been left to die. The relocate is out from Polaris and there's no way out for the Keeper of the Light. Instead, everyone else from Execration just backs their way out and waits for the right moment to perhaps counter-initiate as Bob. He'll zip right through, but he does not get the kill onto Force. So back into the tree line and just trying to make his own way out. We'll zip the other way and he's going to be just fine. They won't find any kind of return kill here onto Polaris Esports, and it does seem like that's going to be enough for Execration.
And that gives Execration an opening here, especially once the Kotl respawns. They know there's still about a minute left until Relocate and Arena's up, and they can still get jumping with their Storm. So if Bob finds a really good angle, a good opportunistic fight to take, that could turn
Tino, that's going to be a big epicenter into a big burrow strike, and now Bob can come right in. Lelouch is already gone, and they can go right after Mavis now on the IO, but Natsumi's going to be around to protect us instead. They're trying to focus down Force. Oh, that's a great setup from Tino. Reads it perfectly with the vision. And Polaris Esports, John, they just had no idea.
Yeah, Polaris has got to play it a lot safer when their big spells are down. When Relocate and Arena's down, they don't really have the best teamfight control left. And they still have this constant vision issue on the jungle. Like, they've committed a lot of sentries. They still haven't found ward. Look at that sentry range. Right outside the mark of that Obs ward. It's just not safe in their jungle unless they really fully clear it out. And Execration's always been aggressive there. Since the 8-minute mark, they've always just been hunting down Natsumi, pressuring that jungle farm. And Polaris have got to find different spots to really build up. They've got to invest in the sentry game. Again, a bit tough when you've only got one support willing to be that sacrificial lamb right now, with Xavius being a lot greedier, still trying to work towards that blink.
Yeah, it's been a very tough time for Xavius. Like, still 20.5 minutes in, no blink up. No Aether Lens either. He's just trying to get that blink rush going, but it's just such a rough time here for Xavius. They are going to take the tier 1 mid tower, but they might have to set up for a defense up at top lane. The tier 2 will drop, and well, eventually the outpost can be taken. So there's a line being drawn up here by Polaris, but it seems like they are a little bit afraid as Vincenzo. He does break the smoke on Force, but the arena is going to be down on Lelouch. Will not play any games with this Ogre. Just throws out the Reaper's Sight. And that may actually be enough to force Execration back, as it doesn't seem like they want to fight 4v5. Or do they? Tino's sticking around. Pings out onto Lelouch, and there's your Burrow Strike initiation into the Vortex and down the epicenter. Lelouch is trying to survive through it. Mavis is here, but he's not going to be able to tether. They've got the IO down. Natsumi, though, with the BKB, still able to fight back as he chases down Tino. But Tino's fine as Bob jumps back in with the Arcane Rune. He just cannot stop. Though Xavius does get a nice Hex out, but it won't make the difference. At least not for him. He does drop, and now Tino finds the gyrocopter in the tree line, and that's going to be 4 down. In fact, make it 5. Tino on the Sand King, Jonathan, he's just been doing God's work.
He's online, he's setting up for his team, and this is the Tino I remember from Execration before he went into Boom, switching roles. So this is the offlane I remember Tino playing. And for the side of Polaris, the big issue for them, Mike, is they're running into these fights, they're using Relocate, they're using Arena on supports. It's not the hero you want to burst down with Arena and Sight. Like, the Ogre Magi is not it. You want to find something bigger. You don't want the Coatl Lighter, as we've seen a couple of times. And because Execration's just willing to throw these bodies for it, they've got a lot more to play with once those spells are removed. Like, Polaris, they can't afford these bigger team fights without Arena and without
look at
Sight.
this.
Oh, no.
Tino, he's got those spidey senses here, John. He just knows exactly where they're going to be, and he goes for the blink stun. That was completely blind, I believe, as well. Very tough time here for Xavius. They do smoke up again. They just want to keep moving.
Yeah. Just keep the aggression up. Put a lid on Natsumi, make him uncomfy in farming. They might find a good angle here.
They may. Oh, Natsumi will be left behind, so Bob's going to move in, but the Vortex is on the Golem instead. And that'll allow Natsumi to back his way out. Is Mavis actually relocated? A bit of miscommunication here from Polaris, as it looks like they're going to drop Mavis for nothing.
Yeah, it's I guess one of those snap decisions. Maybe they want to save the BKB use instead, but no, Natsumi just wants to get out safely, doesn't risk it, bails out. You're not too upset about losing your IO anymore, although that does make the follow-up fights harder without that steroid on your gyro, and that should lead to a nice easy push for Execration onto the tier 2. No sort of defense coming out from Polaris. High ground could be an option as well, but you do risk playing into the Arena and Sight, which are already, and that fresh blink on Xavius. So we'll see how far they go. I think Polaris has some tools for the high ground defense now, but they are still hanging around here.
Execration eventually going to back off. I mean, you've still got to respect the high ground defense that is available here from Polaris. They won't risk it. They've got a 7k net worth advantage, and there's just no reason to throw it back the other way. Especially when you control the rest of the map, you can just keep that farm up until Roshan is back up and available. It is going to be a long timer, though. Still 2 minutes away. Xavius. Nice blink away on the Shaman. He's going to have help right behind him, as they might chase down Vincenzo, but he's also got help right behind him. So not really recommended to try and go for that dive in for force, and he doesn't. He'll play it safe. I do appreciate the way Execration's played this game, though, Jonathan. Very conservative. We hardly see Palos involved in anything, which is a very concerning sign from Polaris, considering you still haven't really dealt with the Drow Ranger. But they are going to 5-man smoke up now. We'll see what they can find for themselves. So head through the mid lane, through the river, towards that Radiant Triangle, but the problem is nobody's hanging around there. There's no stragglers. So they can farm here, but that's about all they can do.
And they kind of smoke blind there. They don't have the best forward vision on Polaris' end. They have one defense ward in their own jungle, one aggressive ward by the tier 2 off the bot jungle, but not much else. So not much info to play with. Makes it a lot easier for Execration to dodge. Stick is 5. Play the side lanes, get a push going. Tier 2 bot, last outer tower for Polaris, set to go, and Polaris don't even want to defend. They're not repositioning themselves to take that fight. They're banking on the high ground now, and that's a massive risk. This is a Drow draft. Palos can just stand very far away from that tier 3 when it does come to the siege onto high ground. And your catch is middling at best on Polaris. You really rely on Force to start landing some of those bigger arenas and spears onto the cores. With a BKB on Palos, catching that Drow is extra hard if you don't get the timing.
Yeah. And now the tier 3 tower's under siege. Lelouch, he's going to be around to try and defend this, but it's a very, very rough defense by himself. Now Natsumi and Mavis also going to show up with the rest of the team. And that'll be enough for Execration. I mean, they're more than happy to just see those TPs back to the base. That means they can just take over the map once again. Yeah, no reason to rush if you are Execration.
Ooh.
So much
Look at
space
this,
for
Mike.
Palos to grow on this Drow, and what are we seeing, Jonathan?
And double damage with Roche respawn. Isn't that nice?
As
you
is
go.
tradition, Jonathan.
Yeah, bottled up on Palace. They could take a fight as well. Polaris are in a bit of an awkward spot. They could contest Roshan themselves, but again, a lot of pressure on Force and to an extent, Xavius to just catch people out with her stuns. Scan out finds them as well in Execration set.
That it does. They know they've got to fight over this Roshan here, Polaris. Problem is they're going to be fighting into the high ground, but they'll jump in Force. He's there with a Great Arena Spear onto Vincenzo, but it's not going to be enough. Castino, he's in with a massive epicenter. Natsumi is going to try to TP out, but he's not going to make it. Oh, Tino. Oh, he's just winning the game here for Execration, John.
Polaris just keep clumping up. They get an arena onto two support smart. It's never the cores. Force is just not finding the heroes he wants to in that control, and that just allows Tino to jump in on the counter initiation when all Polaris is clumped up trying to find those basic kills and just clean up. Now you have an Aegis up on Palos, double damage running for a little bit longer, not too long, but this does open up the high ground siege. No arena to worry about, no Reaper sight. It's a fairly straightforward take for Execration. Polaris, not many angles left until some of those cooldowns come back off.
Very rough position. They've got to try and defend again as Palos will just stay out of tower's range. Go ahead and just whack that tower to death with that crossbow. Polaris, they've had a lot of trouble finding this Drow so far. Xavius, even with the blink up, just can't really find an angle. Force, he could try and put the blink spear back into the racks if he wants. That may just cost him his own life immediately. Palos, I mean, he's got 2 lives, so it's not going to be that easy. They are going to try with the spear back now, but Tino, he's just so fast with the stun out. Xavier's already gone. Now Force, he will follow as Bob. He will move right in onto Natsumi. In fact, never mind. They lose on the Necrophos, and he's gone. You lose Vincenzo, but what does it matter, John? You're onto the mid-racks now. Natsumi has no BKB to use up. And it should be at least 1 lane, but I think they can just keep going.
Yeah, there's really nothing to stop them. On the respawn, you do have Force with the arena. That could be a little bit of a threat, but again, it's just been such a tough game for Force to just find anything with his spearbacks, with the arenas. It's always been the sports when he does catch Palos that last time around, they didn't have the damage to deal with him, and it's a tough one. Polaris, their high ground hold is not amazing. They do still have the wards here on Xavius if you want to drop them to stop this push.
Go top lane. And it's just, how do you go onto Palos? Like, you know he's baiting. How do you make the jump? We saw the spear back and that didn't work. Xavius could jump in for a Hex or a Shackle, but we know that's not going to work either. They'll just let him take the racks. Palos just so confidently just continuing to take the top racks with absolutely no contest. The only saving grace right now is Polaris Esports. They have 1 lane of barracks down a bot lane and there's no creep wave around it. So they have a bit of time to try and escalate in terms of farm, but well, they've fallen so far behind now. 20k to be exact, and Palos, I mean, he's wide open in the mid lane, but it's all bait. His team is smoked right behind him right now as he just runs confidently into the high ground, and they know they can't fight him. They know they can't take the fight, even though the Drow's right in front of their eyes. Just dangling the carrot here for Polaris, and they are not taking it. Tino, oh, nice reaction timing, but not quite nice enough. Xavius, very, very quick to blink TP out. Execration, though, they're going to set up for that final lane of barracks soon, and with 2 minutes left on the Aegis, John, they shouldn't have too much trouble by the looks of it.
And they've got plenty of time. They need to repair that bot lane a bit. Creep wave's going to take its time to get into the high ground, but the side lanes are shoving. The mid and top are shoving in, so eventually backdoor will disappear. Polaris used their scan. It's obvious that they were in the triangle as that's where their smoke broke. Not going to be able to do much with that information, and you're still in a really tough spot for Polaris. Again, your high ground hold isn't the worst, but it's also not like something that stalls out indefinitely. You have to really play well with Arena. You've got the Satanic up on Natsumi, so he can stay alive a little bit longer, especially with the Ags up, just with a Satanic passive, but it feels like there's just way too much damage on Execration. Your BKB is down to 6 seconds. You don't have much of a window for Natsumi to just stand there and do the damage he needs to onto these heroes now.
Here we go again. Palos, we've seen this one before. Going onto that high ground from the low ground. Vincenzo happy to put his body forward, almost daring them to come in. They know they can't make the jump without knowing where the sanking is. Latino, he's just been way too quick today. Nice brought out. Arena is going to be down. Force will try and bomb. He'll go right to the backside, but who are we aiming? Right after the Shaman. Vincenzo's already gone, but now Tino, he's in onto Lelouch. They've already dropped one, or rather two on the side of Execration, but Bomb, he'll just keep going. Onto Lelouch, they'll take the Necro, they'll take the IO, and they might just get Natsumi. On the Gyrocopter, back Bomb. He wants a Rampage. Are they going to give it his way? Yes, they will. Force, he is going to drop, and Rampage will go the way of Bob. There's Execration. Confidently take game number 1 here off Polaris Esports. And John, I mean, Polaris, they've got to be the favorites going into this matchup, but I mean, we all question the draft, we all question the Necrophos pick, and turns out it just does not work out.
No, I mean, it dominated lane for sure, and Bob had a bit of a rougher start. We saw him take a long time to even just get the power treads, but the rest of Execration picked up pace. They managed to give Tino the farm he needed. He instantly got Blink. He rushed to BKB afterwards. He became this foundation for the team to play off of that Fear called out in the panel earlier on. And they just bought so much space for Palos. They kept forcing this aggression out that the Drow had, probably one of the most free games we've seen in a while. And their positioning was on point too. You have to respect the fact that Execration were playing with their supports up front, having their Kotl and Ogre Magi die, cop the arena, cop the Reaper site, leaving no team play or no team spells left for Polaris when they would be able to catch those cores out.
Certainly a very difficult game 1 here for Polaris, but we'll see if they can force a game number 3 in game number 2. But before then, we are going to have to head up to a short break. We'll be right back with our lovely panel. We'll see you then.